Well, hello there. Welcome, everyone. You are watching our latest week of the Quake Pro League Stage 2. My name's Ketchup, joined by Flea. Flea, it's been a while. How's it going, mate? Let me just take my glasses off because I forgot about the reflection thing. There we go. We're good now.
It has been a while, yeah. We haven't been on the cam or on mic together for quite a few weeks, if not months, but I am doing well. Looking forward to the excellent Quake action we're going to be featuring today. I think the lads kicked Stage 2 off on a high note last week, but I'm sure that we can rival that today as well.
And I think I'm excited to see a little bit of new players in the fray. You know, we have our first matchup here with GaRpY. But before we get into too many details here to start the show, we have got a little recap for those that missed last week's action. So, take it away.
Shotty getting a taste of vengeance finally. First shotgun frag we've seen into 2021 in the Quake Pro League, and now we get a second one coming along in thick and fast fashion. That was a fast flick though.
We'll be going in for the kill here with the shotgun, but Barney, double rail, keeps himself alive.
Oh god, the double rail all across the sky. Keeping himself in the game now. Oh, the dual wield, the timing on it was Whoppers Marty! The self-sustained damage. Battle of the LGs, don't cross the beams. It's like Ghostbusters, but right now, the Hang's the only one. Effortless is dead, blown to bits. Effortless's HP just dropping out of nowhere there. Suddenly it's gone. Pineapple trade back. Does the frags actually work out to get him away? What? They trade that? He's still in a spot where this game could be snatched away. And the Hang with a shotgun. He's gonna dive in and again slay him. Shuts him down.
Oh, I caught this one live. This was sick.
Yeah, there were some really good ones last week.
Pineapple!
Ooh. Zeneca, it seems like he's going to get the full 3-0. That's a ton of points. That is a hell of a start to the season, especially because look how ridiculous he's being. The turret still putting the feelers out. Oh, the peek as well onto the stairway. Cypher, lucky to even be breathing here.
Wow. 5 minutes is just insane.
Oh, mate, I feel like a train conductor. I'm seeing so many rails. They just don't stop, Dan. Oh, he's just strangling him. And he's going to smite him with a railgun.
If he gets this and he gets a frag, it's huge, but he gets neither.
It's done.
Will be done for Avik.
If he had eyes in the back of his head, he would have been completely starstruck. Look how low he is, Dan. And he will get it. If Nosfera's going to get back in and be able to actually put some pressure on, he needs to do it fast.
He has one more go at it. Chain pushes in. He needs to do some damage, but no! Vamos, Nosfera! He will be taking the series 2-1.
You can kind of see he has an idea where he is. Oh, gets a nice rocket, but the shield comes out, still manages to get the frag. Hold on, we got a bull rush into the lower levels. One more rocket, and they do exchange.
GaRpY brings out the fists. Nearly close.
That
but
was
no
close.
cigar.
There's the final seconds. We get another frag coming out here by Rafa. GG's coming out, and that's going to make the score 15-3 to close that one out. Rafa seems to, you know, he's not playing as aggressive as he was. Well,
Okay.
well, I'll shut up now.
So, that was last week's action. I think we were just chatting about this just during the video here, Flea. Two real stand-up performances coming from Zenecu and Nosfera. Two players that I think are feeling pretty good about their wins last week.
Oh, absolutely. And those were really the two major upsets, right? First, you have Zenecu taking down Dewey 3-0. Zenecu, a man who's really been putting in the work. He's been grinding, as you said, getting himself all hyped up, very much working on the fundamentals of his game. I saw him talking to Rafa in his chat, asking questions on how to improve, maybe how to change things up a bit. And he even took away a few maps from Rafa during practice. So clearly, the man from down under is shaping up to be a true competitor. And then the second game, of course, Chain versus Nosfera. Chain, someone who's really put himself in a position of being the number 2 in NA, kind of tied with the Hang for the time being. And then Nosfera, a man who has been struggling over the past few weeks to months, finally getting a huge win over that. That must feel good for the Brazilian.
And if I recall social media correctly, you know, Nosfera was feeling super good about it, but Chain also kind of seeing it as a bit of a wake-up call, maybe a lesson learned, going into, I think, from this week on with, you know, absolute focus, you know, if possible. And I think that that's going to shape for an interesting rest of the stage, to be honest with you, for both of those players. But enough of that and last week's action. Let's talk about today, the schedule, which should be coming up real soon. Our first matchup is going to be GaRpY versus Base. So always happy to see GaRpY back in action, back in the Pro League. For crying out loud, this guy was not quite able to make it through, although he got so many Challenger finals, just coming up short. Glad to see him back in. I know he had a rough one versus Razy last week, but come on, it's Razy.
Yeah, of course, playing his teammate, I think Razy, we saw him, right? He almost took down Rafa in the Stage 1 final, so clearly one of the absolute best in the world. GaRpY, I think he's been putting on some really impressive performances nevertheless, so I think we can expect some great things of him this stage. Following that up, we've got Effortless versus Chained NA versus NA, of course, the Canadian coming through. Then we've got Avek versus CNZ, Cygip versus The Hang, Rafa versus Zenecu. And then catch up, I'll leave the final two to you. Our featured matches, they are hot.
Wenger versus Kilson, and then Cypher and Razy. I think we've all been treated to some pretty juicy games here in the later stages of the evening. Well, it might be evening for us by that point. And it's a bunch of players that are doing pretty well for themselves. And I think that with it being so early on in the stage, I'm simply put looking forward to that one. And we'll be joined, as always, by the wonderful DJ Wheat. So stay tuned for the rest of the show, whether you're tuning in, no matter where you are in the world right now, whether it's evening for you, early morning, somewhere in the middle for you and I, Flea, I'm sure. Thank you very much for spending your time with us. There was a small break in between stage 1 and stage 2. You know, players are right back into the action, and it's like we never left. Now, let's talk about our first matchup. It's GaRpY we'll chat about first, a player who we've definitely talked a little bit about in today's show, to say the least. And he has kind of come up short so many times in those relegation matches, you know, where he's just about to make it into Pro League and it's close but no cigar. Recently able to finally make it through. Look, I'm going to be biased when I say this, but I'm really happy to see it, you know, because GaRpY, friend of mine, really stand-up dude, and he's been a grinder for so many years. One of the most old-school players in Pro League, you know, not just for Quake, but for all kinds of arena FPS.
Yeah, absolutely. GaRpY, the British Bulldog, he actually started off the Quake Pro League way back in the kickoff at QuakeCon 2019, and then he participated in Stage 1, of course, but ultimately ended up losing his spot in his relegation game, and has then indeed been struggling to make his way back in. At long last, he has secured himself a spot, but now he's got to prove his worth once more, and I think that that is something that he's going to put some good effort towards today.
I'm kind of looking forward to the eventual situation of GaRpY versus Cypher like a year later.
Yeah.
Kind of that was Cypher's entire rise to power where, you know, to give him his credit, he worked his backside off for it. Was so close to not happening. You know, Cypher had to pull off the absolute clutch against GaRpY when it was game 5 and everything else. And it's crazy how history could have been rewritten if not for like one map or one ring out, you know, when GaRpY was on full stack and the rest was history. So it's great to see that kind of potential rematch coming in. But enough of that. We can talk about GaRpY plenty, but now it's Base, a player that I think a lot of people understandably have a lot of faith and confidence in. One of the best players in the world right now. Base just continues to get better and better. And I think for a lot of people would say he's going into this as the favorite, although I think 2-1 could be the result.
Yeah, absolutely. Base is a fan favorite to say the least. The man speaks softly but carries a huge stick. He is one of the nicest players in the Quake Pro League, no doubt about that. But man, oh man, does his aim have a bite. He tends to play games from a very passive, a reactive playstyle where he just secures himself the lead and then allows his opponents to make mistakes for him to capitalize off. So we've got a bit of a clash of playstyles here. I think that GaRpY out of the two is definitely the most aggressive player, but Base is very well equipped to deal with that.
There was a time where a lot of people were saying, and this was kind of like during maybe later stage of year 1, going into year 2 perhaps, GaRpY and his rockets being a match made in heaven for the longest time. His ability to just brawl with those on those really small maps had some incredible runs on things like Blood Run where it was just every rocket landed and it was kind of ridiculous. But that was many moons ago at this point, and now we'll talk about the picks and bans and the maps and the champions, all the good stuff that we can grow to expect. Now, on that note, it's going to be the Deep Embrace kicking things off. Battle of the Heavies. We have the Keel versus Sorlag. Veil of Nath with the BJ versus the Galena. Don't know why I paused there. And then Ruins of Sarnath to come forward.
Yep, looks like we are not getting exiled just yet. Still gotta wait a bit for that one to make an appearance. But indeed, Deep Embrace, 2 heavies. I think that's kind of become a bit of a meta matchup on Deep Embrace. It's one of the smallest maps in the pool, so those heavy hitting champions with a big stack definitely help out a lot. And then Veil, finally back into the pool. I know a pretty divisive map. Some players really love it, others can't stand the verticality. And we are getting, of course, Galena up against the BJ. And then finally, Ruins of Sarnath, Anarchy. A lot of speed to go with, and then Ranger with the Orb.
Yeah, nothing here is out of the ordinary. Every pick makes total sense. Nothing would be considered like a curveball. You've got those 2 heavies on the Deep Embrace. Veil with the utility of Galena's totems being able to shut down so many key areas, you know, especially BJ, you know, he's without rocket jumps, he kind of has to use those teleporters, right? And all things that Galena can shut down with a good totem to at least block it or make you know you're going to take a bunch of damage as you come through. And then Ruins, we've got that kind of, you know, burst damage. It's very common of GaRpY though to go with those kind of champions, you know, where they're going to hit hard, they're going to play with those heart on their sleeve reads and decisions, and their payout will be this massive burst of damage, but then Base all mobility. And on Ruins, I mean, it's a risky play. You know, we've seen so many times that Lights can sometimes be a bit of a tricky experience on Ruins because of those armors and things being kind of out in the open to pick up. So Base will have a lot of confidence, I think, in that map to go in with the Anarchy. And I'm excited to see how it goes, Flea.
Yeah, indeed. I really can't give the edge to either one of the players here. I think they're very balanced and evenly matched matchups and picks. I probably am still inclined to favor Base slightly just because of his track record. He's been in the Quake Pro League from the very beginning, absolutely one of the best in the world when he puts his mind to it, whereas GaRpY still has to really prove himself once again among the best of the best. But other than that, I think just looking at the picks and bans alone, there's no one who's really in a bad spot here.
Yeah, and I mean, we kind of just have to look at the player versus player aspect of this now. I know there are certain maps and matchups you look at where you go, oh, that's going to be kind of tricky. A bit more prominent, I think, in stage finals where players tend to run out of champions. You end up seeing Death Knight picked at last. But in this kind of situation, we just have to look at the fact that Base, not only has he been in Quake Pro League since the very beginning, but he's never had even a sense of being in a struggle situation either. He has decisively been one of the best players in EU and CIS since it began, and before it even began. Base has always been considered one of the top level players in Quake Champions, especially once he had that kind of breakout performance in the days of 2v2, and from that point, he's laughing. Whether it gave him his newfound confidence, maybe he was super shaky at LAN before it, and it just took that one event for him to go, oh, okay, I can play godlike now at LAN. Whatever it was, from that point on, he's been a beast, you know what I mean? And it's been both online and offline, but online being the norm now due to the current situation. No need to go into that, but it just means that Base has been able to absolutely rise to the occasion, and he continues to impress. And GaRpY, he has to kind of prove himself, I think, in this set.
Yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to, right? I think that the odds against Razy last week, they were definitely not in his favor. Base might just be a more manageable opponent for him. So this is really the time for GaRpY to show that he can duke it out with the best in the world. Starting things off on Deep Embrace, our first map of the day. We are currently loading in and getting everything ready, so we'll be jumping into the action in just a second.
Yeah, we're about to enter the warm-up, and when that's over, you know what it goes from there. We're going to be starting that first map right off. It's good to be back, by the way. It's been a few weeks since I've been able to jump in here and talk some Quake. I'm always excited. It's always a pleasure to have you on my side, Flea.
Likewise, I've missed you dearly, but on that note, we got Quake on our hands, GaRpY plummeting himself into the depths to kick things off, and here we go, first matchup of the day, starting things off on Base's point of view, playing as the big man, Keel, tremendous stack, and of course those grenades, they hurt, but GaRpY challenging off the bat.
Now, there's already a little bit of that acid damage coming through, but GaRpY pushing on big time. I do believe the cameras are swapped right now, folks, so bear with us. Checking out the in-game. Looks like GaRpY's able to score that kind of first blood right here. Another rail, fresh off the spawn, so that's all good damage as far as we're concerned. But what did he get from here? That new rotation of the items comes forward. A complete split. I take one, you take one. You know the drill by now. GaRpY with the armor advantage, though, and Base only a little bit to work with. Plenty of rails, and that first rail is going to put Base in a tricky position now. No armor to his name, just able to take a light. But that is a light that GaRpY was ready for Base to collect, already having that rail angle established and ready to rock. And a second will finish the job, and GaRpY off to a hell of a good start here, Flea.
GaRpY is just playing an incredibly positional-based game right now, keeping control of that center area of the map, knowing that Base doesn't have the railgun, because that's exactly his goal right now, weapon denial. He is sitting on top of the rail, guarding these long corridors. Just look at the line of sight he's holding right now. He knows that Base can do absolutely nothing from that distance, so he wants to exploit the weapon advantage that he has.
And no choice there for Base but to just sit and wait. And still not really having a lot of weapons. That was a nice little opening, though. Probably as best as it could be. Super shotgun, all he really had at that point-blank range. So I think as much damage as he could have hoped for right there. He's been able to somewhat reposition, but 10 seconds away from the heavy. That's going to allow GaRpY to come all the way forward, catch Base. Unfortunately, the rocket going through the woodwork, so he's not going to be able to get a bit of damage, but who cares? Scores a frag anyway, and that delay on the heavy, Base probably not having perfect timing on it right there was definitely the cause of that.
And now there's a pretty huge delay between the two items, 15 seconds. This might very well work in GaRpY's favor. Still setting up around that center area of the map, trying to dictate the flow. He's even gonna push out for Mega. Bad decision. Getting punished with the LG, didn't have the right weapon for that distance, and now Base smells blood. Might want to make something happen right here. Still pushing in, and GaRpY, those misses with the railgun. If he had landed one of those shots, I reckon that Base would have abandoned his push right there. But GaRpY, unfortunately, unable to connect. And it makes it so that Base finally secures a heavy.
It's the nature of a rail-based game plan. By the way, opening rocket. I'll finish my sentence in a minute because we have a fight breaking out. GaRpY, I would say on death's door, but Base not looking too hot either. However, he's in a really good position to restack. He gets himself a couple of lights. He's got himself the Mega as well. Oh, on that rail. I mean, GaRpY, he needs to run for his life right now. He needs to try so hard to get away, but it's going to be tricky. That rocket! Oh my god! That was a fantastic shot right there.
That's one way to get yourself back into the match. Just land some incredible rockets just like that, and now
Remember,
Base...
I just talked about his rockets like a minute ago.
Yep.
That's exactly what I mean. This guy just finds all kinds of... Wait, what? he was definitely in Base's line of sight twice
Yeah.
there. That was a very unusual situation. We weren't watching it from Base's point of view, but I was. That's very strange.
Neither player going for the shot there. Now Heavy will be the first item to spawn. Liking the decision from GaRpY right there. He knows that he's out of position, can't get there in time, so instead he just goes for the damage. But he's got to be careful. Look at the stack advantage that Base is working with right now. The Russian, if he can get up close and personal, GaRpY is done for. So the British Bulldog, he's got to play it cautiously right now, and that's exactly what he's doing. Just slowly walking around the map, not making any noise, going for these sneaky shots and angles. Base does not want to let that happen. But again, GaRpY does the superior damage and sends his opponent right back.
Risky play there from Base, pushing in with the rail. I mean, he is going to have that kind of keel factor where he's one of the few champions that can still pump out damage in between rail cooldown. You know, those grenades, so good for fights, but he's taking a whole bunch here. And GaRpY, definitely going to be better off in terms of stack. The Mega's just about to spawn. Base is able to get a really good rail, a second fantastic rail, but he just can't resist pushing for the Mega. But to be fair, looking at that situation, I hit that shot, I take out GaRpY, I get the Mega. If I die, I'm going to spawn with a fresh stack, and GaRpY has no armor, so it wasn't really a terrible idea to dedicate to that fight.
Not at all, but what it does result in is that GaRpY is just extending his lead. 4 frags up already. Base, this is an opportunity. He wants to desperately put himself on the board, but he is outmatched in terms of mobility. That needed to be a kill. Now GaRpY, probably just looking to do as much damage as he can right now. He knows that he is done for. Hang on. Yeah, he will indeed drop the frag. Still does a tremendous amount of damage, and Base has to give up Mega. And this is GaRpY right back into control.
Base's accuracy at close range with these kind of non-rocket weapons, it hasn't really been his best friend. He's been hitting a lot of shotgun shots. You know, he hears the death scream. He knows that GaRpY's weak. He looks to push in, and he just misses way too many shots to concede damage that puts him behind right as GaRpY spawns. And right there, best of a bad situation, really. That rail able to get some damage on the board. And it's the nature of these two heavies, right? You know you're going to spawn with a giant stack. So if you can damage them a ton, get a good idea of where they're going to try and retreat to stack back up, you can probably get some kind of advantage. But right now, GaRpY, he's the one with all the advantage, 5-1, and we're only 4 minutes away from this map being over, but that's a great catch! And GaRpY not going to be able to squeeze out of that one.
Immediately caught off the spawn again. Base somehow messing up, doesn't land the shotgun, and GaRpY, with 6 points of health left, secures himself the frag. I think Base is just really struggling with the damage right now. Ketchup, if we look at damage dealt, Base does get a frag here, but GaRpY has nearly 1,000 points of damage more 6 minutes in. That is a tremendous difference, and it's the reason why the Russian is struggling right now.
I feel like a big part of this is that early rail damage that came forward. You know, there was a point at the start of this map where GaRpY was just hitting Base with so much free damage that he couldn't really challenge because of the rail denial for the first good, quarter of this map. Now, he is able to pick up another important frag there for Base. GaRpY spawning with that giant stack. You've always got to keep that in mind. You know, when you have those large champions, GaRpY getting out so much damage, but the rocket not able to hit, but the second one will just in the nick of time, as now the Mega gets picked up and GaRpY doesn't have armor. I do like that decision for Base to say, no, sir, you are not taking that armor. That is mine. Oh, the miss again. Base, he's going for these big rails. Not much choice in the matter, but not able to hit the shots fully. It's been a real problem for him.
Finally connects. GaRpY was on 89 points of health for like 30 seconds right there, and Base missed every single shot. He's got to be careful though. GaRpY will probably be able to secure the heavy right now. Base contenting himself with some small armors. I also think that resource management has been absolutely sublime on GaRpY's end. You very often see Base struggle after these fights to get restacked, whereas GaRpY always seems to have some health bubbles available to put himself in fighting shape.
Base certainly not in fighting shape right now. 31 health, no armor to his name. GaRpY needs to kind of just look at him and menacingly to take him out. Not much effort required. I like that bit of a surprise attack there from Base. GaRpY holding the angle, but not quite able to hit the shot. And there is still plenty of time for Base to actually pull this one forward. GaRpY's been in the lead for the entirety of it, but it does demand almost perfect accuracy now. 2 minutes on the clock. If GaRpY does want to play that more retreat-based game, going to become a lot more attractive now with less than 2 minutes on the clock. The movement advantage of Solar, Base will have that point-blank damage, especially now the Acid Spit is gone. But no, Base, he's run out of rails.
Will secure himself the Mega though. Now he has to make his way back, pick up some rail ammo. Looks like he will prioritize the item pickups, but he's running out of time. 90 seconds left to work with. And GaRpY, as you said yourself, can be extremely slippery and hard to catch, especially running Sorlag on this map. Now Base moving in for the chase, but just look at GaRpY dancing around and escaping Base's clutches. The Russian just doesn't really seem to know what to do.
It is always this kind of couple of minutes away from the map being over moments where the speed differences of champions really kind of rear their ugly head. However, lovely sequence there from Base, and now 2 minutes turns into 1 and 2 more frags needed. Oh, ready for the rocket jump. I like that preparation for Base. You're Sorlag, you have a rocket. I know what you're going to try and do here.
Good shot indeed, but time is not on Base's side right now. Can he find GaRpY? He needs 2 more frags just to tie it up. He knows where the lizard is at. Beefing up Mega. Doesn't want to waste any more time. GaRpY. Still getting away. Base, he needs to find him soon. GaRpY is in a bad
Surprise!
position. 20 seconds, this is entirely possible. Catch up.
Now GaRpY. Base puts a couple of seconds aside to give himself a Mega, lets him safely rocket jump in for the push. GaRpY hanging around the teleporter, but is it for too long? 10 seconds away, we're going into sudden death, and Base at the last minute, able to find the frag. Oh my good lord, Flea, this was looking so bad for Base for a huge chunk of the map, and just like that, here he is. Sudden death, he's down on stack, but he has all the weapons to his name. Uh-oh, hang on a minute.
The rail, once again, GaRpY using that weapon to such great effect. Base can't even get onto the Mega. Does he even need it? This is a bad situation for both players. Now GaRpY is in a dire spot, and it will be Base.
Oh my god!
The first map win. That was a very close match catch-up.
And the closing moments of that map is why I'm so happy that we have player cams for every match. Because did you see Base's like absolute emotion of relief? That was almost a, how did that happen? How did I end up winning that? Because in the final moments, making the play, having perfect timing on the Mega, he'd just picked up Mega before the sudden death for that rocket jump into all the aggression to get the final sequence that he needed. Gave him perfect timing on it, and he knows that there's a good chance Base is going to go for it, or GaRpY, sorry. GaRpY going full speed ahead, running into all of the LG, and then just getting stuck in no man's land with the final moments of the map. Base clutched that one out. I mean, come on, it's the first game of the day. Calm down.
Good opener, to say the least. I think so much came down to the shots that were hit. I was keeping track of the damage output a bit catch up, and Base had 100 points of rocket damage until like 2 minutes before the end. He almost did nothing with that particular weapon because GaRpY, his positioning was just so good, always staying back, landing some good rails, and then punishing Base over and over again.
Now we can just check out all of these different replays here. You'll notice kind of the tail of the tape. GaRpY, how significantly in the lead he was. And then he had, arguably he had the advantage in the final moments of the map as well, because he did have that movement, but Base's just tenacity, being able to stick to him. Moments like here, that rocket knocking him away from the teleporter. I mean, that was just an incredibly paced piece of damage right there. And then the final moment, GaRpY, the plan there, run in, get the Mega. Getting stuck by LG, not a part of the plan, and there was no plan B available. Not able to get away, in Base playing that final frag perfectly. That was a great map. I'm glad we got that one.
Absolutely, and that is just the first one of the day catch-up. We've got so much more to come as we are setting up map 2. Bit of a reset right now. Veil of Nav, once again, a pretty small map, but this one is high in verticality. So many different layers, very important bounce pads and teleporters, and that is exactly why GaRpY is playing the Galena, right? That totem gives you so much utility, and same goes for Base. The dual wheel to come out in a bad situation can easily turn any fight around.
And it's the nature of, this is utility versus just pure damage output. How many times do you see Galena picked on the Veil of Nath? It's all about being able to deny more than anything else. The gift that keeps on giving, I like to call the totems, where you can heal, you can do damage, you can shut down teleporters, you can shut down jump pads, you can put them in really, really weird locations. We see it on Ruins all the time, those really strange corridors where someone tips around a corner, bam, dead. And it's on a map like this where if you are BJ and you don't have anything that kind of gives you instant reposition, those totems are going to be something that it needs to go into your risk calculation. You know, I go through this teleporter, there could be a term on the other side. How much stack do I have? Because I'm going to have a little bit less going into a fight through tele, you know, and you just need to have those decisions made. Base obviously will, but it is an interesting dynamic in Veil of Nath, a map we haven't seen for a bit. Glad to have it back, and we'll see how things go here.
Absolutely, and I do think that there's just going to be a lot of totems placed down as traps, right? As you said, this is not the kind of map where people just hide a few away and then hope to get those free totems up for the healing boost. Usually people just drop them down at the teleporter exit, on the bounce pad, or even in the middle of a fight to do some damage, block a shot, or even get some health back.
Bless me, sorry, just had to sneeze during that. As we now go into warm-up though, looks like both of these players are now good to go, and we are jumping in. Yeah, 8 seconds left on the warm-up clock. Let's go, Veil of Nath. We're coming back. Base able to pull off the absolute clutch in that first map, and 2 more of them left to go. Is he going to get some newly found momentum from that, perhaps? We'll see.
Once again, starting off from Base's point of view, using the BJ Blazkowicz, big man with the dual wields, intentionally delaying Mega by around 10 seconds. Clearly, he's hoping to get the upper hand at the start of the game and then set up a good rotation for all of the pickups, and that rocket might just help him do so. Bad rail to take in return, but now you see GaRpY is just completely moving away from Heavy because he has got no idea when the items are spawning. And that means that Base picks up 1 and now is positioning on the Mega as well. Is he going for the frag, or does he just want to set up both of the items?
Well, he has been able to set them both up at the very least. That dual wield, you know, used more for denial more than anything else. I know you're weak. I'm gonna, you can hear it. Oh my God, GaRpY! I told you this guy's rockets. What the hell? How did he find that?
He's just using rockets as rail, it feels like. Which is interesting because Base doesn't even have a railgun yet, and I think that GaRpY is aware of this.
I mean, you just look at the classic term, rocket to rail. GaRpY goes, wait, you mean rocket as rail, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a first frag for GaRpY just in time for the Mega. Gives him perfect timing on it as well, as he secures the lead. A minor lead, but a lead all the same. And an opportunity to soak up some of these light armors as well. So if he gets that initial damage out on base, he tries to retreat, and there's not much left in the tank. Lovely angles there from the Russian, able to place those rails perfectly. And now GaRpY, how do you back out? How do you survive this?
I'm really impressed that GaRpY managed to get the first frag, because Base played that opening so well, but it is GaRpY once again doing twice as much damage as his opponent, which is exactly what is allowing him to just keep dominating right now. So GaRpY, now on the back foot, losing out on pretty much all of these major items. Base is so healthy, and GaRpY slowly working his way back into this.
But that's what I've always really loved about GaRpY, and I don't even say this in a biased way. The fact that he's got so much just well built up, just FPS fundamentals, that it's just really hard to count him out on any map, on any game, against anyone. Because there's always that opportunity where he just pulls out this ridiculous sequence, or this ridiculous shot, or this ridiculous prediction, where it's just, you almost sometimes feel like only GaRpY could have done that. But now, Base weak. GaRpY minorly more HP left in the tank, but Base able to put himself into position for the heavy at the least, and that's going to be much, much better. But GaRpY with the stack advantage, and he's just about to get himself another totem, so I'm curious to see, when we inevitably see that next fight, how things are going to go here. GaRpY making sure to control this high ground, and he springs the trap onto Base. Catches him in a really bad position, and just the patience to wait. Good call there from the British lad.
It's interesting how much control has been changing on this map, because often on Veil you see one player hold pretty dominant control for a while, but so far it's just been constantly chasing. Now GaRpY taking some bad damage. Base still pushing for this one. Neither player landing the kill shot. That was so risky.
On that second push, definitely caught GaRpY off guard too. If he knew, he would not have had that weapon out. Absolutely. But he pushes it anyway. Base able to lick his wounds, and now it's a 2-1. Yeah, GaRpY was not ready for that second push. A starting shotgun, it's as good as it's gonna get. Catches him in a bad spot. GaRpY wanted a rocket, and he got a rocket to the face, more than he bargained for, with it being even Stevens. 2 frags apiece now, and only a little bit of this map done. We've still got plenty of time.
Basis LG looking really solid right there. GaRpY, even after picking up the Mega, still losing out on that previous encounter. Nice cheeky little rail as well. And now Base, finally securing himself a good number of weapons. Frags starting to come his way as well. Finally getting the lead. Heavy is spawning. He wants this flea. Wants to get away with this cleanly. Does manage to do so.
But there's that patience, being ready for those totems always. Don't want to get caught round a corner. It's not just the damage you take, but it's just giving your position away. And now, good rail, GaRpY. Little bit on the back foot, especially with that dual wield that just popped through the teleporter. Gets psyched indeed. But now, Base sitting on double the frags that GaRpY's working with, but also importantly, the advantage. He'll know about Heavy. Heavy's just about to spawn. Takes away one of the light armors too. I mean, this is going to be pretty tricky here for GaRpY. Base, he's got all the information, he's got all the weapons, all the ammo. GaRpY tries to give himself an opportunity, but Base, he's waiting for it. And GaRpY, thankfully for him, not going to take the bait, but he is going to have to concede the Heavy all the same, Flea.
Yep, Base for the first time this map, getting himself some good control.
Oh, and he's delaying it.
Yeah,
a
I'm loving
good
it.
10 seconds delayed in between.
That's gonna help him in the future and also really throws off GaRpY's sense of the timings.
I kind of feel like we might see that Mega be the cause of a frag. A couple of frags down the line, perhaps, who knows. But as it is, Heavy just about to spawn. If Base is able to take this... Oh, wonderful rail! And it forces the dual wield. That's going to put a spanner in the works as GaRpY now takes it. Pushes in. But that comes down to Base knowing if there is a totem there, so be it. I need to take this Mega and stop GaRpY from taking both items in complete control. That was an interesting sequence from both players.
I really like Base's response there, though. He knows that he drops down, and so he uses a dual wield to signal, GaRpY, you cannot jump for this, okay? You can't jump on one LG, let alone two, so you back off. He realizes he can't get back up there on time, knows that he's delayed the Mega as well, so instead he takes that time to loop around, set up on the Mega already, knowing that, yes, I'm going to lose Heavy, but at least I can still get one of them and cling to at least some semblance of control on the map. Good rockets from Base once again, dual wield LG, will it be enough? GaRpY backing away, defensive rockets, and Base deciding not to push, patiently waiting for now.
GaRpY using a good point to retreat to, you know, really a situation you have to absolutely dedicate. If there are rockets there, not much you can do to shut down the major damage. GaRpY looking like he did maybe a little bit of self-damage there from the rocket, perhaps. Very unusual, but he takes a bunch of damage, forced to retreat. And Base continuing really to be able to take these small armors. That's been a common occurrence for him. He's constantly retreating back and able to be like, okay, well, you can't go down this way because there's really nothing for you to pick up over here, mate. But with it now being the fact that no frags have exchanged for a fair old while, Flea, it being less than 3 minutes on the clock. The dual wields available for Base. GaRpY. Again, that just comes down to right before an item spawns, Base, he clearly thinks like, look, if there's a totem there, so what? Like, I have to go through this teleporter.
And this is Base's comfort zone, right? We know that Base has no issues running down the clock with just a minor lead. And so now, 2.5 minutes left to work with. Base is 2 frags up. GaRpY, he's got to realize right about now, hang on. Base is just going to wait this out if he needs to. I need to apply pressure. I can't just slow play this for the remainder because time will just run out as Base secures the Heavy as well.
And there has been a significant delay put on between the Mega, and that's actually going to catch GaRpY off guard, but he has to hit the shots. Base forces him away at the last minute. GaRpY ready for the rail angle. Looking like he was indeed early for Mega, which I think was, you know, Base's delay put perfectly into plan, really. Now 10 seconds, we see a Heavy spawn. But these items, they're going to become so much more important now with less than 2 minutes on this clock. And GaRpY needing to get himself 2 frags. Base, he has comfortably sat on this center point of the map since he took control of it, Flea. I know you said there's been a bit of a back and forth. Not so much in the later stages of the map, it seems, as Base has been in full control.
Yep, Base absolutely has been dominant and dictating the flow of this map ever since the first few minutes. Now it's all on to GaRpY. Oh, catching Base by surprise, but unable to really make anything happen here. Although it does seem like GaRpY will be able to secure the heavy, but it's not armor that he needs frags, Ketchup, and time is running out.
Looking for any damage he can squeeze through those floorboards at this point, with it being 1 minute on the clock, 2 frags, Base right in front of the Mega, but he's able to take the Mega at the last minute. Importantly, just making sure that GaRpY can't take it. Now, GaRpY does have stack still. He does have an opportunity to push, and he'll seize it, take it. The defensive rail, that's going to be a great start for him. Can Base steal this away? Oh, and the totem allows GaRpY to survive the shot, but Base allowed to run away. That first rail that he landed was everything. If he missed that shot, he'd be dead right now.
I love how Base just misses the easy rail when GaRpY's jumping right at him, and then he lands that pixel perfect shot with only the top of GaRpY's head showing. Base coming clutch when it matters the most, and now with 20 seconds left, GaRpY's got to chase the dual LG timed perfectly. GaRpY pushing in the super shotgun has to come through clutch. It will not. Base securing himself map 2, tying it right back up 1-1, Ketchup.
It really is insane. It is absolutely insane when you look at 2 separate occasions Base was able to completely clutch that one out. You look at the closing moments of Deep Embrace, and it's just, you even saw it in his own face. It almost looked like he couldn't quite believe he was able to win that map with how badly things were going. And then the final sequence of Veil, where, again, really to go back, I know it's almost skin deep to talk about it, but if he missed that crazy clutch rail right as GaRpY was pushing in, there was no reason GaRpY would have pushed away. He would have absolutely stuck to that and would have picked up an easy frag. It would have been 4-4, probably sudden death. GaRpY would have had the lead, and then who knows what could have happened. But the fact that Base was able to deny that at the last minute, it's why Base is considered one of the best in the business. Those kind of clutch moments.
And it is indeed 2-0 for Base, not 1-1. Slip of the tongue right there as
Sorry,
we are
mate,
setting
it's
up
early.
the final. It is early. First game in quite some time. Some de-rusting going on as we are getting ready for the final map of this series, of course, right? It's all money matches, basically. So there is still a fair bit of cash on the line. Definitely GaRpY has an initiative to keep playing for another win at least.
Hey, and if we see anything in the later stages of a stage in Quake Pro League, whether it was stage 1, stage 2 as well, especially because of the change of format, every map counts. Every single one. And we're early stages now, so any boost of points that you can get, when I say points, wins in general, is going to matter later down the line. So we can't be looking at this going, oh, it's early days now, you got some wiggle room. To be honest, you got to make sure you're giving it your A game every single map. There is no room for error as Base is able to pull that one forward, seeming a little bit like the last map. GaRpY was in control for a bit, had a nice comfortable lead, and then much quicker on Veil was Base able to turn it around. But the second he locks in, that's where it's kind of hard to challenge him. But doing well today, a 2-0 versus GaRpY. And now as we go into that Ruins of Sarnath, he will have to have a pretty good start, I think. We touch on this a lot, but it is that Anarchy versus Ranger. If Base is behind and he's having those armors taken away, it's going to be kind of hard for him.
I mean, Ruins is just notoriously difficult to play out of control when you're a small champion, because those small armors that you rely on so heavily are out in the open. Very difficult to get a hold of and escape cleanly, because your opponent can so easily land a rail or a good shot on you. So Base absolutely has to be careful not to get too far behind. But then again, we did see some impressive comebacks from him on map 1.
We did. So looking at a position being like, on paper, it might be a bit tricky for Anarchy here. It's another matter when you're looking at the fact that it's Base behind the wheel. It's one of the major elements, where matchups in Duel can be so prominent, but when you actually have, the best in the business able to roll with the punches, and their game sense and their knowledge is through the roof compared to everyone else, this is where you start to open up that interesting dynamic, because our matchup's the same when you have 2 of the absolute best going head-to-head versus people that are still learning the ropes, or whatever the case may be. But now, a 2-0 situation for Base, and a chance for GaRpY to at least get one win on the board here. Little injection of cash, not too bad, but importantly, just putting his name on the board, because he had a rough showing versus Razy. But again, it's Razy. It's going to happen with those kind of opponents. And Base, like I said, this was an opportunity for GaRpY to really prove himself, and he's done a great job of it so far. He just hasn't been able to clutch out those wins. That first map, by all means, really should have been his. It should have been a 1-1. But Base just pulling off the insane comeback in the last minute. And if he's able to take a 3-0 here, it might be a bit of a knock into the early morale here for GaRpY, perhaps.
Well, let's hope that he can keep his head above the water as we have jumped into the final map of this series. Base running around on the Anarchy. Again, a bit of a delay between the items. This time GaRpY, though, leaving up the heavy just a little later. This is something that Base is not aware of. Showing up way soon. 10 seconds still to go, but it doesn't seem like GaRpY is really going to do anything to punish it.
Has got a rail at least.
Oh!
But looking for a big push, actually. Just in time for the heavy to spawn. Now he does dedicate, but there's not a lot of health in the tank, especially after that injection that Base was able to pop. Give himself the advantage of health. And that will now let him take the frag, but also, more than likely, Mega ghost him as well. And it will do. GaRpY had an interesting idea, but just wasn't able to execute there. And now he finds himself in what could be a losing rail battle. Stuck in a difficult point now because he's still railable with the stack that he's working on, or lack of, I think I should say. But how does he get away from this? The orb's been used. Oh,
Still railable. There we go.
still
Injection.
railable. GaRpY on 87 HP right now. If he still gets tagged, he's in a bad spot. But he uses the orb. Okay. You wouldn't have caught that on the spectator because we're checking out Base, but he has just used the orb to take the Mega, so GaRpY might be playing a bit more defensive until he gets it back, folks.
I really do like the plan that GaRpY had for that first frag. Delay heavy, leave Base cluelessly waiting for a spawn, sneak up from behind, and then use both the orb as well as a rocket to steal the item. But unfortunately for him, the execution was just a little fumbled, and it was Base dishing out much of the damage before GaRpY even secured the item. So it did go awry for the British Bulldog. But still, early stages, just one frag of a difference. No harm, no fall just yet. Base looking for the kill shot. GaRpY, 1 point of health, literally. Base knows this.
Oh no, the miss! The missed shot. Oh, Base felt that one. I could. Oh,
I was
yeah, that's
waiting with
upsetting.
bated breath. And then he just straight up whiffs it as GaRpY teleports out of the room. But still, the Maestro player not in fighting shape whatsoever.
he's definitely not out of the woods. He's still got a lot of work to do here. Oh, but he takes one. Can he somehow survive this? The defensive rockets to say, please, like, don't go up that jump pad. Oh, looking for a bit of damage on the rail. As good as it could possibly get. I don't think he fancied his chances being able to run away there. But, uh-oh, GaRpY, he is able to hit one rail, picks up an LG, but still has to be a victim of that rail cooldown. The second base score him fresh off spawn. I think we knew what was going to happen next.
GaRpY, this is already becoming a little worrying. 3 frags, just a few minutes in, and Base has just got such a tremendous mobility advantage to work with as well. Even if GaRpY manages to get back into control, there's so much he has to do to chase down his opponent, whereas Base can just quickly dance, dip, and dodge out of any room.
And the control for Base has been pretty through the roof so far. Significantly more of both major items. I mean, yeah, he's taken less lights, but I think that tends to be a testament of Ruins. You know, when someone has significantly more lights and less of the majors, you kind of know who's out of control, who's being left with the scraps. And right now, it's definitely going to continue to be GaRpY. But even the scraps, fresh off spawn, has been denied. If GaRpY takes a bunch of damage here, he is getting some, fresh off spawn damage. As good as he could ask for, but with Base taking that light, GaRpY hasn't got a lot of potential armor to work with here, to be honest.
Good push from GaRpY right there. Came down to around 20 points of health. That could have gone his way. I understand the decision, calculated move right there, but now he just doesn't have the weapons to work with on base. Yeah, just absolutely fatality right there. And again, GaRpY spawning in that same spot below at heavy. He doesn't even have the timing. Otherwise, he probably would wait to pick up the heavy first, but this is the second time in a row that he instead just pushes out to meet base head on.
For the first time in a while, GaRpY was able to get himself some armor at the very least, you know, spawning near that light. A breath of fresh air, and so will that frag, on top of the fact that he was able to take the Mega at the same time. Base looking for a little bit of opening damage, just in case you're looking for a rail angle there or something. But Base, the objective here is going to be get some of those weapons back on track, because right now a shotgun's not going to quite do it, but a rocket launcher certainly helps. And now what's the next play going to be as GaRpY tries to decide? He has a lot of work to do and half the map or less left to get it done.
Definitely possible though, but Base, widely considered to be one of the best defensive players in the entire world. GaRpY now eating a lot of rocket damage. Base, just so clever on the positioning, staying back just far enough that GaRpY continued using that LG, and he dishing out the damage of the rockets.
Hang on a minute, that's not the end of the world for GaRpY. He was able to take away that heavy and then, importantly, land a rail. Another one of those classic examples of, you know, don't be too attached to every single life that you have in duel. And these kind of situations, you can absolutely take a trade if it means that you're going to be able to get control off the back of it. GaRpY, plenty of stack and maybe an opportunity to get something happening here. Base caught, but it's that air mobility of Anarchy that is just such a pain in the backside. You knock him up with a rocket, you try and get the second, and he's just able to hoverboard out of there.
GaRpY just didn't have the LG yet when he entered that situation. Could only respond by using the rockets, and as you said yourself, that air control, such a powerful passive ability that Base makes perfect use of. GaRpY, okay, completely messing up the orb right there, but somehow I think his mess up just took Base by surprise and allowed him to get the frag. But 8 frags, 3 minutes. I don't know about this one, Ketchup.
He popped the orb so early, it almost looked like his choice was to use it in the fight, knowing he could take Mega afterwards, but I guess it's kind of hard to tell in that situation. But the question is, what does it do for him? Because right now, Mega about to spawn, sounds like Base did just use his injection. You know, we just saw that instant boost of health, and he'll be able to contend with this. You know, GaRpY's been able to get himself a bit of major stack thanks to the Mega, but Base with the injection able to kind of match it, especially with that opening rail and only 19 damage. I mean, that rocket might do a little bit of extra there for GaRpY, but this is the dynamic of the matchup, right? You know, we have less than 3 minutes on the clock. Now, movement. This is where it starts to become key. Base is going to play a much more defensive game here. You know, foot off the gas, not so much. It's more about just trying to give GaRpY less to work with. And now he can just hit these defensive angles, reposition thanks to his speed. GaRpY has to make a strong decision with the orb, but that's going to be gone for a fair amount before it comes back. Not going to have many of them with the rest of the map. I mean, I think it's hard to see Base losing this.
Base's positioning has also just been spectacular. I love how he was set up in the lightning gun room earlier, just sitting on that little pedestal, that ledge, knowing that he's completely free from rocket damage in that situation. And then he just keeps checking the corners, predicting GaRpY's position perfectly, and always being the first one to do the damage, leaving the Maestro player just constantly trailing and looking for an opportunity out of rockets. Mega gets stolen as well, and now Base... GaRpY throwing out the orb on 11 points of health. I think it was pretty clear he wasn't gonna go for that one, as Base lands one more shot, and I think that at this point, Ketchup, we can safely call this GG.
Oh, absolutely. GaRpY is... Unfortunately, it kind of just went from bad to worse for GaRpY today. An absolute opportunity to win that first map. Base, to give him his absolute credit, that's a really nice boost as well. Oh my lord, here we go. Hello, surprise, goodbye. 10 frags in the lead now with Base, and this is without question just a victory lap. GaRpY able to kind of be like, okay, an extra frag. But like I was saying, I mean, he should have had that first map. It's just that Base played out of his mind in the last moments, right? It's less about GaRpY playing bad there and more Base just pulling off the clutch. And then the other 2 maps were just more of the Base show, especially this final one, where everything just seems to have worked out for him. And a 3-0 for Base. Not a bad way to jump into stage 2, is it?
This definitely wasn't a bad showing for GaRpY at all. As you said, that first map coulda, maybe even should have been his. Second one really came down to the wire, just a 1 or 2 frag difference at the very end right there. It's just the final map that has been very one-sided in favor for base, but other than that, GaRpY playing one of the best in EU and keeping it this close. Yes, the scoreline will lead that 3-0 in the end, but nevertheless, that doesn't tell the full story, and GaRpY absolutely put up a good show.
It's one of those classic situations, like you just said, you look at a 3-0, but I don't think a 3-0 quite reflects how much opportunity GaRpY had to win this set, especially when you look at that first map, which again, really, we should have had a 1-1. It was just base being a beast and pulling it off in the last moments, really, and you could even see it on his camera, which again is why I'm glad we have cameras in every matchup now. I mean, Veil was one of those things where GaRpY was looking real strong, but base just kind of locked in that control on the top level for a significant chunk of it. There was such a close opportunity for GaRpY to bring that one back anyway, because even on the Veil, it came down to a ridiculously close rail that base landed. If he missed that shot, again, sudden death, and then who knows? Yep. That final map was one-sided, but it was the only one-sided map in this entire exchange. But the important thing is those closing moments forever, getting that all-important win, and it will be base getting that 3-0 today. But I hope this doesn't knock GaRpY's confidence too much, I know it's unfortunate for him, in at the deep end against Razy, not quite able to pull it off against base, but he's playing well. I'd really like to see him continue this level of form.
I mean, we gotta keep in mind that this is only week 2, right? If we just look back at some of the Quake Pro League history, just think back of Dramas last stage, right? He went weeks without winning. At the very start of the stage, I don't think he even secured himself a map until like 5 weeks in, and he still somehow managed to finish near the top of the NA leaderboard. So clearly, right, this is just a warm-up. Yes, we're already playing for keeps, but GaRpY, he still has got a lot of room to grow, and I think that if he continues putting in the effort, we can see some great things from him still.
But just great for the base fans all around the world, that one. Being able to see the base is, in fact, still a monster. Not that we expected anything less, especially after that map 1, which really was a killer way to start the day. But I think that set in general was Flea. And we're going to go for a quick break, set up our next matchup. Do not go anywhere, because when we return, Quake Pro League Stage 2, Week 2, will return with it.